1452. 1452. Let's get here. Exciting evening. Coming on a little bit, well, maybe kind of on time because I was listening to the Teamster speak at the RNC. Wow, what an amazing historic speech. Um, Way over 120 years. First time a Teamsters president speaks at the RNC. That was amazing. Um, you know, things happen that you don't expect, and that is why you have to have a lot of faith and go forward. And of course, what he was saying is, you don't negotiate with, a fist on the table. Um, and he is there for the workers. And I want to say that we're here for our son, for our family, for the military, of course, and for El Paso. And it was just a great day because El Paso, I don't want to say the name, but we received a package today from El Paso, a gift. And I just want to say thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Anicia, for your prayers and your hearts. We love you, and we really love El Paso, and we love Fort Bliss, and we are broken, and to see the those that are up to no good do so much harm to that area, to our country, to our service members that are our volunteer sons and daughters. Our volunteer sons and daughters. And they go out to harm them. Harm them. And I don't know if they, well, it is intentional. It's absolutely intentional. Um, so the criminal activity. So this is day 1452 days since Richard was brutally murdered on Fort Bliss. There is no other option, y'all. There's no other options. We've exhausted in our investigation all options. And now, with the institutional support that we're getting, with the declaration of death, with all of the hard evidence that we have mounted, with the irregularities, with the circumstantial evidence. I mean, we have tried to go up every mountain, down every valley, cross every stream, pick up every stone to understand what happened to our son. And with the institutional support now, that are advancing forward. And you see that in this RNC. You see that there is an opposition to it. You saw that with the attempted assassination on President Trump. There is an opposition. This is not easy to lift up the stones and to cross the streams and to climb every mountain and to go down every valley. It's not easy. You have opposition, and once you realize it, though, you know how to handle it, and you can, it's, uh, God just gives you this power to face these individuals that are up to no good, and He uses them. He uses them to then help you get answers to what happened to Richard because they expose themselves. And so tonight I wanted to talk about the LLCs. I am free to talk more. I've been wanting to for days now, almost like a week. And I can talk about the LLCs um, today. And it's pretty complex, but, I'll give it a go. So one individual that is absolutely up to no good, his name is Jules Chan, and uh, and his brother. And why are they up to no good? Well, because they're deceiving the people of El Paso, and they have exposed themselves doing that. Specifically, I'll talk about Jules Chan, um, and that is because uh, for a long time uh, they have been hiding behind a curtain, not revealing to the people of El Paso who they are, and running the Real Fit Fam El Paso um, social media on Instagram. That is huge, and it's for profit. And there has been articles um, where they brag and they admit that they are not revealing themselves, that they want to stay anonymous, that they have, because of their job in the government, they're military and military related and security related, top secret clearance jobs, but they didn't reveal that. See, they just said, because of their day jobs, they have day jobs, um, you know, they're not going to let the people of El Paso know who is running the Real Fit Fam El Paso um, Instagram. And, okay, um, this is deception. This is absolute deception. And we didn't really know about the deception. Okay, we hadn't read the articles. Um, we know that they came to fame with the Walmart mass shooting, and it is very important to understand that Jules Chan on his LinkedIn, on his posts, prior to sanitizing them and deleting them, he admitted that he had firsthand, he responded, he was a first responder to the Walmart mass shooting. He had first hand work there, right? And, that is really important information because uh, the Real Fit Fam El Paso on Instagram really got popular with their reporting on the Walmart mass shooting. And they did not reveal that they had intelligence sources, and they were, that they had connections, um, or they did reveal it. They did reveal it, but they didn't reveal that that is a conflict of interest uh, in their job. That is a huge conflict. It seems like a huge conflict of interest with their job, that they're profiting off of their secret intelligence clearances, right? So, and we didn't really know anything about um, this whole scheme. Uh, and when Richard was officially declared deceased, and Dirty Bob Moore, well, he's been discredited, he's disgraceful, he's disgusting. Discredited Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, disgraceful Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, and disgusting Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, who ignored our many attempts and to connect with him, to speak with him, to correct the record, so many things wrong, to reveal what we had, because we're the ones that gave the Army, the Board of Inquiry, the evidence. We gave them so much. And I know that they had some, but we also gave them a lot. And I remember when we were in El Paso for months in El Paso, and when we were regularly, all the time, almost daily, speaking to media, the media would say, okay, that's your side of the story, but now we're going to have to contact Fort Bliss and get their side of the story. And we're like, absolutely, absolutely. And Bob Moore is using a uh-oh. Bob Moore is using um, what the national level CID director, well, I should say on the national, who admitted that the CID file botched, was tampered with. And so you would think that Bob Moore would connect with us, right? Say, okay, we heard their side of the story. There's some problems there. Now let's, you know, especially out of compassion, out of being a good journalist, connect with us because, my goodness, no less than 15 times they've been sending us stuff and everything. And I'm using Lalani Hart, a convicted criminal, as my source, a convicted criminal with a family that has incestual problems, child sexual assault problems, a family that has um, child pornography problems, a family that has illegal weapons purchasing problems, uh, reported violence, and more. You see, that's who he's using, and also getting her mail at an adult sexual entertainment business, right? And that's who he's using for a source, and yet he ignored us. It is criminal that he did that. He needed to reach out to us. It's our son. It's our son's picture that he didn't even ask permission to use. Um, and it was pretty vile and vulgar with a lot of violence. Um, and you can say, what do you mean violence? When you treat a family of a murdered soldier like this, and you put out false stories, um, the pain is just incredible for the family. It's just, it's horrendous. And so, yes, I would call it these fake stories using uh, these kind of criminal sources, confirmed convicted criminal sources. That, of course, she is also the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, and they're prime suspects in the murder of our son. So, yes, when you put out a story like this, and you're obstructing justice and you're trying to frame a false narrative where the family has the receipts to prove otherwise and is not given the opportunity for that in the media, right? It's so terrible. And also tampering with witnesses, retaliating against witnesses, um, harassing witnesses. So it is violence. It's absolutely violence, vile, vulgar, and violence. Um, so when disgraceful, discredited, disgusting Bob Moore published the story, uh, not too many media picked it up, but Jules Chan did. Jules Chan did, and he posted it on the Real Fit Fam El Paso Instagram social media site. And we immediately, like Bob Moore, we immediately wanted to contact them. You can contact them through the site itself and ask them to remove the post and say, uh, you can contact us, we can correct it, or you can post our story up. If you insist on posting that story up, then post our story up next to it, right? And let's be fair. And we didn't hear back. We didn't hear back at all from them, and it was, very very hurtful to see that kind of number of people when we're being shadow banned get the attention of such a hurtful fake story from a discredited journalist using a convicted criminal source that is a prime suspect in the murder of our son because she's the mother of Richard's platoon leader that is also a prime suspect. So we wanted to know who was running uh, the Fit Fam El Paso. We wanted to know who was running it. And so that we can maybe contact in different ways. Well, it was hard. It was very difficult because we learned at that time that they were deceiving the people of El Paso, that they weren't being transparent, that they were hiding, that they were being anonymous in their business practices. And we did find out Jules Chan was the registered agent for Fit Fam El Paso. And but there was a problem. There was a problem. There was business problems. And that LLC was forfeited. It was forfeited. And we couldn't believe it. It had been forfeited well over a year. And he's running that business without registering it with the Secretary of State of Texas. And he's running that business. And this means, that, what's going on? Is this possibly tax fraud? Is this what is going on here? So we decided to see if it was really available. And we own now El Paso, Fit Fam El Paso LLC. Okay, we took that over because it was available, and we couldn't believe it. We just couldn't believe it. And then we registered with the El Paso County Clerk the assumed names, the real Fit Fam El Paso and Fit Fam El Paso. So we have been doing that to see if these were available, meaning that Jules Chan has not been honest with the people of El Paso and, of course, with Texas. And so, he has some answers. Now, do we know that he is really the registered agent used to be and all of that? Well, yes. And because once we listed up who he was, which everyone should know. I mean, he had the LinkedIn that was fully maintained. It had a CV that was absolutely amazing, incredible. And, he's, Garda World, security, was firsthand experience with the Walmart case. He had a big part in the emergency intake center where 85,000 missing children. But he said it on his LinkedIn that's because he does the logistics for health, right? And I can probably bring it up and read it because I think it's really important to know. Um, I don't want to mess things up. So I'll just leave it. Um, and I'm going to try to share screens again and get all that organized. But it has been so crazy behind the scenes, uh, getting answers because of finding out about Jules Chan. So he might mean it for evil. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is about Joseph, right? Joseph with the coat of many colors, that special coat, and all his brothers, and they were angry with him because he was a favored son, and they sold him into, well, they wanted to kill him, but then uh, they ended up selling him into slavery, and years passed, and he ended up saving their lives, right, from the famine. And at the end, it says, they meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, because the, Joseph had to get into that situation in order to um, manifest his wonderful character, his wonderful, faithful character to God, to get him in a powerful position in order to save his family. And so, they meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And, Jules Chan has made it very, very clear that he doesn't want to talk to us properly. Um, he wants to, he went over to the other side, the dark side, y'all, the criminal group, Bob Moore's group, over there with Lilani Hart and Dallas Hart and James Hart and Ruggiero and Nick Brown Bell, Nuffzinger, and Morgan, right? Morgan, the husband of First Lieutenant Brown, and Corinne and Amber Chase, the vile, vulgar, harasser, intimidator. You know, uh, she's very violent with her mouth. It's terrible. Um, so that's who Jules Chan, with his CV, uh, wanted to be around and uh, whatever, complain that I put up his LinkedIn. What's the problem with that? What's the problem with that? If you had these experiences and you have this CV and you put it up on a public LinkedIn site, that should be revealed. But see, the problem is he has security clearances, and anyone that's in the military knows that there's something fishy going on there when you are using the information that you're privy to. And he admitted this. This is not me saying it. He admitted this in the article, in order to notify everyone on FitFem El Paso. Um, so, and of course, that grew, that profit. He profited off of that. Um, and that creates conflicts of interest. Okay, that is a national security problem. It's a national security threat. That is a really slippery slope. And being from a military family, and my husband having a top secret clearance, um, knowing the interviews that he went through and all of that, absolutely, this is a slippery, slippery slope. So, So that's, but for him to want to rub shoulders with Bob Moore and Leilani Hart and Dallas Hart, the prime suspects, well, Dallas Hart and Leilani, the prime suspects in the murder of Richard, um, and he's supposed to be there for the wounded warrior, right? And, if he's involved with the Wounded Warrior program and all that, that's on that list too. I should have printed it out so I had it in front of me. Um, you know, that's clearly connections with the VA. That would be clear connections with James Hart. Okay. Now, I don't know, but I'm just saying, whoa, that, they would have had cross paths, right? So, yeah, could that be seemingly, apparently? And the other is the logistics part of it. And of course, with Nadal being in logistics, um, that is also very concerning. Very concerning because that is Bradford Bugado, right? If, uh, you can just see the problems here as the family that, we've been made the investigators. And here, we're all we want to do is ask, for fair treatment on Fit Fam El Paso. And all of a sudden, it's a big can of worms with these LLCs, and it's connecting a lot of dots, and God means it for good. Okay, because a lot of dots have been, have, yeah, have been exposed. A lot of LLCs, the whole way, the workings of the LLCs. Um, and so for us to contact the Secretary of State of Texas and realize that the very LLC that Jules Chan was the registered agent for was forfeited and was available. We couldn't believe that. It was like, well, let's see if it's available. Let's get it. So we did. And we also did the assumed names, right? The assumed names for the LLCs. We contacted the El Paso County clerk, filled out the form, um, you know, and turned it in. And through the mail, all of a sudden, we have the real Fifth Fam El Paso. And yes, let me see, who's this? Do I think that the assassination attempt on Trump was related to my son? Well, with this Fit Fam El Paso, and now that's our name. We assumed it. And it's rattling some things because is exposing some things. And I want to be very, very clear. Our intention is to get our son's remains. We absolutely know that they have Richard's remains, even if they're partial remains. We want our son's remains. We've heard, and through different sources, they were charred. They were, you know, it's terrible. It's so terrible, right? And we, of course, were finally, we had collected enough hard evidence that we turned in that on April 24th, 2024, the government had to decide. There was no other choice. See, this is what we wanted to tell the public. What we want to tell the public is that there is no other option that Richard was murdered and that he was murdered premeditatedly. that he was murdered intentionally, internally, for being a whistleblower, for reporting criminal trafficking. So going to Francisco's, thank you so much for coming on, to going to your question. Reviewing, and of course, I'm not saying I know everything that happened um, in Butler, Pennsylvania. Um, but Pennsylvania and New York, you know, there are connections with those that are part of a group of the original response team in Richard's case, and with also the Walmart mass shooting case. And, to see Butler, Pennsylvania be the place that the Secret Service, who, remember, the Secret Service did arrest Ernest Christopher Grant. That's important to realize that, because this is absolutely connected to Richard's case. The media darling that has a criminal record was arrested by the Secret Service in Washington, D.C. He's up to no good. And they've ghosted him. And they've protected him. Why? Why? Because because Chris Cuomo went and saw him in the hospital, and he continued to say the most vile, vulgar, violent things to divide the people of this country, the people of El Paso. And they were not real, okay? That's what makes it so vulgar and vile and violent and just criminal, is that what he was saying was not the truth. It was framing a false narrative to divide a people, to manipulate and tamper with an election. Okay? And they did that with Trump. Of course, they've done that. They absolutely that connects the Walmart mass shooting, that is absolutely through 3905 Bliss Avenue, through Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and her ex-husband, that they were divorced since 2001, that she received tens of thousands of dollars for victims. The baby doesn't receive that kind of money, but she does, and she doesn't even, that's questionable. She's under investigation with Yvonne Rosales, right? With El Paso Community Foundation, because of the way they were distributing the money that all these people donated, that the Texas governor sent to El Paso, of taxpayers' money, right? To distribute to the victims of the Walmart mass shooting. And there was a lot of stinky smells coming out of that. And Yvonne Rosales was investigating that. 2 days later, after she said that she was investigating, they petitioned to remove her. So, there is a real attempt, and we need to really pray for Yvonne Rosales, because she's the rightful district attorney, right? She's the rightful district attorney. She needs to come back. And we've just been waiting for her to come back and praying for her to come back. And that's why I appreciate this gift that we received today with the angel letting the dove go. Kind of reminds me of Noah. Noah, on those Sabbath days, every time that Noah was on the ark and let a bird go, it was on a Sabbath day. I don't know if you know that, but that's just amazing to me. And that's what that gift today, that beautiful light, reminded me of, is that grace, that hope, And so, my prayers are absolutely hoping that Yvonne Rosales comes back because she was treated so badly. And she was absolutely looking into Richard's case. And she wanted to set a date for the Walmart mass shooting case with for Patrick Crucius. And, and we know that Joe Spencer, Patrick Crucius's defense attorney, was up to no good. And he was also tampering in elections, right? Not really tampering with the election itself, but tampering with the candidates. And, that's not me saying it. That is already in the public domain. And so, there is a lot of connections here. Do I think the breach in security caused the assassination attempt on President Trump to be somewhat successful? No, they didn't kill him, but they sure did pierce his ear. They sure did graze the side of his face. They sure did get close enough to make a mark on him to cause him to bleed, right? Uh, so this is a real problem, um, because they got close enough to Richard to forcibly remove him from the barracks room and to brutally murder him. And then they also disrespected his remains and dismembered him. And now we don't even have uh, his remains in our hands because it's so disgusting what happened to Richard and so violent what happened to Richard that they didn't want another Vanessa Guillen because it was so violent, like Vanessa Guillen's, right? They didn't want another Vanessa Guillen situation. So, do I believe the breach in security? Can I believe that um, could have been, possibly needs to be investigated for, an orchestrated attempt? Um, I've never ever seen the hate pour out of the mouths of any party like I do right now, the Democrat Party for President Trump. It is absolutely, look, um, they have just been framing the narrative to hurt him. And so they need to be held responsible for what they've done, right? So, so do I think that the same people that are attempting to assassinate President Trump is orchestrating this Walmart mass shooting, is silencing a whistleblower by the name of Richard Halliday? Uh, I don't know. It's like the same MO, right? And they're protecting their LLCs, their LLCs that, are pretty stinky, are criminal. And Jules Chan, when he forfeited his LLC, his registration, that means he should have closed down the Real Fit Femme El Paso, at least the for profit part of it. So I don't know if he did that. I think that, an auditor would have to decide on that. But I don't think that anybody is above the law. I don't think that people should get special privileges just because they have connections with Washington, D.C., and Jules Chan does. Um, and, you know, what's going on with Lilani Hart? She absolutely gets favored treatment because she is the one that put in that notarized FBI complaint about her family, okay? Admitting to the child pornography, the child sexual assault in her master bedroom. And she was bragging about this, and that's why we even got the FBI number. You know, and then Jesus Nieto Jr. just says, "Oh, well, she's just lying." Well, lying to a in a federal statement like that is a criminal offense. If I did something like that, because we've been um so harassed, and they watch everything that I say, everything I say. And they did not like it that we assumed the names of Fit Femme El Paso and the real Fit Femme El Paso. They didn't like that we assumed that. Um, but they need to get a box of tissues and cry it away, because they're the ones that were negligent in their own business practices. We're you know uh, we're just wanting to get to the bottom of who did this to Richard. And, so I think that, that's why uh, I guess well, I know why we did it. We wanted to see if it was free. It said it was free. It said that Jules Chan was Fit Femme El Paso LLC, but he forfeited that LLC. And we're like, okay, let's see if we can buy it. And we did. And we have it. And we have it. And it belongs to us. And we went to the El Paso County Clerks, and we we filled in the paperwork, we paid the money, we did it legally, and we said we want to assume the name, the real Fit Femme El Paso and the Fit Femme El Paso, both of them. We'll pay for both of them. And they were available. So Jules Chan has to answer to the state of Texas, the Secretary of State, for why he's running a for-profit site with forfeiting. Does he not want to name the people that work there? Does he not want to expose who's working there? Does he not want to pay the taxes? I don't know. That's for an auditor. Okay? That's for an auditor. All I know is that something is fishy. Okay? And that we have the names. Now, they belong to us. And, so I don't know why he's using our name. It's going to be interesting how this all plays out. So, and all these people have these connections, and you would think that that Jules Chan, with his connections, would want to help us, because with his connections, with Nadal Baim, with James Hart, with Leilani Hart, with Dallas Hart, with Bob Moore, with Bradford Bugado, and on, right? Because he's over there with that team, with those connections, that he would know in his security, right, situation, with his clearances, he would know things, right? And all the LLCs are exposing all of this, and I think there's been a lot of deception on the people of El Paso, a lot of deception on our service members, a lot. So, selling them cars, selling them illegal things, getting contracts, having the inside scoop, I don't know. But I know that it's deception. And I know that when Richard got there and he saw illegal practices, that he saw things, he told me, it's so bad. It's so bad. Okay? It's so bad. It's so bad that he asked to be transferred out of that unit. This is a young man. Okay, he's young, but he had high aspirations, right? He didn't go in to not try hard. And that's why I always say, why don't they, Bob Moore, Jules Chan of Fit Femme El Paso, why don't they say Richard Halliday volunteered to serve in the Army with all of his heart and all of his might because he was a distinguished honor graduate for his cycle in basic training and AIT. And he wanted to be an investigator with the Criminal Investigative Division in the Army. Why don't they say that? Because that's the truth. And that frames him in a different light than what they were framing him. They want him to be weak, but he's strong. He was strong. And he stood up. He's strong enough to say no to the criminal activity. And, but this group, this network, who is there to protect Richard. This is where you can draw a similarity to what happened to Trump. Those Secret Service are there to protect President Trump. There is no excuse for what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. No excuse. And that lady person in charge of Secret Service should be forced to resign. Okay? Because she was just being interviewed and she said no, she's going to stay. She needs to be forced to resign. She is no good as a Secret Service head, right? She failed, just like Donna Martin failed with so many of our service members. And just like Richard being a whistleblower, having security detail, and the day that he was forcibly removed and murdered, the security detail did not show up for duty. Did not show up. Did they tell him not to show up? Because we know from our evidence, and I say it when I count down 1,004 or count up 1,452 days, that Richard was premeditatedly murdered internally, code red. If you're in the Navy, you understand that. It was an internal crime, an internal murder, the taking of a life because of retaliation against what he was reporting to the CID, to the IG, to the FBI Houston, to the CPS. It was so bad. So, and the truth is just pouring out. And those that say the false stories turn out to be deceiving the people of El Paso, right? Jules Chan has deceived El Paso. Jules Chan has deceived Fort Bliss, our soldiers. That's clear. Bob Moore, who says they know things, they have deceived the people of El Paso. They have deceived our soldiers on Fort Bliss. They've deceived the law enforcement community. Remember, this framing of this false narrative, the target was the law enforcement community, because the law enforcement community are the ones that have the authority to investigate and to solve the crime. That's why they targeted Yvonne Rosales. So, very clear, the target was for these false narratives to get out. The number one was a deception, putting forth a deception to the law enforcement community. And you see, we've caught Corinne Adeline behind the scenes. We know that she's been talking to multiple people behind the scenes. We know that. We know that she has been putting forth a false narrative. We know that Amber Chase is up to no good. El Paso Independent School District, mortuary affairs, putting forth a false narrative out for Richard, where she is the one that's deceiving. They're the ones that, remember when Corinne was like, oh, Nadal Baim, he wasn't going shh. He was just pushing up his mask or whatever. I mean, every little thing they would try to, hypnotize people with a false story. And this is, they are master deceivers. Who does that make them children of? The children of the devil, children of Satan, these master deceivers. And, so it just leads to death all the time and chaos all the time. And so are they connected? Is Richard's case connected to Trump? I've said this for a long time. Absolutely, because the Walmart mass shooting targeted Trump. And Richard's case is connected to the Walmart mass shooting. And Richard is connected to the Vanessa Guillen case also. He's a Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. Donna Martin was provost marshal over the Vanessa Guillen case. She's the one that came down and carried out that dog and pony show without an op-ord, without wearing a uniform, putting a chair in the middle of a room of 15 plus billion dollar funded law enforcement agencies to keep our country safe, to keep our most valuable assets safe. That's our volunteer sons and daughters. She put out a chair right in the middle of them and sat out of uniform like an Indian on that chair, and did not take Richard's task force find Richard Halliday seriously, because it was without an op-ord, y'all. There was nothing. There was never, ever, without an operational order, there is nothing. They did nothing except for deceive. And we know that in that deception was a lot of tampering, was a lot of retaliation, was a lot of obstruction, a lot of abuse of power. Absolutely. Fraud, waste, and abuse. And just the meeting itself was fraud, waste, and abuse. So, and now we have Jules Chan letting everyone down. And, he's was an officer. He was trained. I mean, he was a captain in the military. He's in the reserves. He's, got the benefit of of our loving country to our soldiers. And he's betrayed our country. And I would say he's betrayed Richard, and he's betrayed um, justice. This is an obstruction of justice and a tampering of witness. And, I don't know how to lay it out. This is the first night I'm talking about it. So, as it goes forward, because our intention has always been to make things right for Richard, justice for Richard, get his remains, lay him to rest respectfully. He's a hero. He's a whistleblower. He stood up against this network of criminals, and they were obligated to care for him, and they murdered him. This is the rogue breakaway criminal group from the original response team of Richard. And remember that Dallas Hart, who's the prime suspect, was Richard's platoon leader. And you have First Sergeant Ruggiero, you have SFC Arona, you have Captain Park, you have First Sergeant Jay Paulin, you have Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz, Shaky Jake Jakovitz, you have Major General Clem Coward, and they have an obligation to care for Richard. The distinguished honor graduate for his cycle in basic training in AIT, with aspirations to uphold the law, to be mentored, not to be entrapped with whores and blow, not to be entrapped with unfit vehicles. Oh, this is a good deal. This is a great deal. Let me sell you this car. Not to be the target. Because, when you get into the military, they give you some money, right? They give you some enlistment bonus money. And to be targeted like they are, the barracks, to be an absolute disgust. An absolute disgust. Not a place you'd want to live, as the SOP demands for it to be. So, yeah, and what's very, very important for everyone to know, and I want to really leave it at this because it's very important to know, there are active and ongoing investigations at the state and the federal levels right now. Okay, we have institutional support that has been growing, but that is advancing. And that is really important for people to know. And so we're not just coming on a live stream and discussing. We are absolutely working very hard behind the scenes to get answers for our son, to get justice for our son, but also because we love El Paso, we love our military, we love Fort Bliss, and, we have to break this cycle of corruption and violence and these sex cults and this love for death, everything for money, love for death. I mean, where is the esprit de corps? Where is the esprit, which is So much more valuable than any fancy car, than any big bank account. So I think that's very, really important for um, me to remember to say. Okay. Danielle, thank you so much. He was just wanted to do what was right. Yeah. And, of course, I've put him up as a saint behind me. Of course, when they are just relentlessly smearing a young soldier. What's a family what's a family to do when they are not giving an accurate description? Not one PAO, not one general, I don't think so, I can't remember, has said your son was a distinguished honor graduate for basic training in AIT publicly. To me, that is evidence that they're up to no good, and they're stinky. That's all. That's all I have to say there. If you want to connect it to the Trump thing and connect it to the Walmart thing or whatever, but these are stinky leaders, and with leaders like this, who needs enemies? Especially when they are willing for a young kid like Richard. Wow. I was looking at them with such disgust. You know, Command Sergeant Major Jerry Jakovitz, eh, the disgust, and I have to control myself, because it's like I just want to throw up. Um, who would ever want him? And then they give themselves awards and everything. What Donna Martin got a third star, Sean Bernabe got a third star, and you're like, oh my gosh, and no, put on your boots. Put on your boots, put your full armor of God on. The soldiers, the service members need you. The service members need you. We've got to do this, and we've got to do this legally. And these people need to be held accountable legally, peacefully, the right way. And so there's no time to throw up, right? There's no time to cry. There's no time, so it's you're just constantly fighting the emotions so that you can stay focused and do this properly. And I want to tell everyone thank you so much for sticking with us. Um, but we absolutely exposed Jules Chan as being deceptive to us, to his community, to Texas, um, I think to Washington, D.C., because he has all these connections, and then also to the people of El Paso and Fort Bliss. So that light is beautiful. It is beautiful. Thank you so much. Um, that just really made our day. What happened to your last comment, Francisco? Did you remove it? Why? Yvonne is a Democrat. I thought you are a rights supporter. I'm a rights supporter. That's right. She is the rightful district attorney. She's the rightful district attorney. When you follow the Texas Constitution, which is the law of the land, we are law abiding, right? Um, Bill Hicks is a usurper. He's not law abiding. And that's really troubling when he's supposed to be the district attorney, right? That's really, there's a problem there. And so, I'm not going to look just the other way because Greg Abbott appointed Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks even admitted that he only said that he had to be a Republican because, he was appointed by Abbott and that was a condition. That is also illegal. That's so wrong. That's so wrong. So he's being forced to be Republican. That's so wrong. Uh, no, the the point that I've been making about Yvonne Rosales is that she was duly elected. And we've looked into that whole thing. She was not the candidate that was supposed to win. So she might have got even more votes than what was said that she got, but she had enough to win. And she did. And she was looking into Richard's case. We know that for sure. She was looking into the Walmart case, and she was looking into El Paso Community Foundation and how they were distributing the Walmart victims funds. And someone didn't like that. And now someone is Bill Hicks and Bob Moore and Justin Underwood. They didn't like it. And John Briggs, she fired John Briggs. He didn't like it. And they smeared her. When you're Bob Moore and you have the power of the press, and you have some money behind you, they smeared her, and our open records shows that they interfered with the election by removing Yvonne Rosales unjustly and forcing her to resign in duress. And the Texas Constitution is beautiful because it says if you are, forced to resign in duress, it doesn't count. So that voids her resignation. So she can come back anytime because Bill Hicks is a usurper. He did not install correctly. And she can come back and assert her right because she's the holdover candidate. She's the holdover rightful district attorney. Now, will she win next time? I don't know. But I know that right now, and her time is getting very short, she needs to come back and she needs to assume her rightful place. Just like Lady Justice assumed her rightful place, Yvonne Rosales needs to come and take her rightful place. So I think that's important. And I don't care if it's a D or an R beside her name. Because Patricia will block me and report me for harassment. Why? Did your comment, was it a harassing comment? I've been so harassed, so, whatever. Francisco Avalera, rightfully so. You are not here for justice for Richard. Yeah, people get very upset when you report them. They want to think that they can commit crimes, which is harassment, interfering in investigations, obstructing justice, interfering in elections, running a business without registering it, when all these other businesses have to do it and they have to pay their taxes. We cannot have chaos and we have to follow the law. And so people get upset when you use your open records request rights, when you use your rights as they are given to us in this government to report people for harassment. I've been reported, and I didn't harass anybody. All I said was, Jules Chan is behind Fit Femme El Paso. And there's a problem with that because he has conflicts of interest. So, you know, and he can let me know what, you know, the problem is they don't like being reported for the criminal activity. They feel that they have some right to act criminally with impunity, which leads to so much chaos and death, and just it's just so disturbing, you know? Don't they want peace in life? No, it's like they want these sex cults, and they want pedophilia, and they want the criminal trafficking. Um, and it's like, no, it's illegal. It's illegal. In this country, thank God, it's still illegal. So, you know, to run a business without properly registering or re-registering, you know. So, especially when you're in the law enforcement business, especially when you're in the security business. So, okay, thank you so much, everybody. Um, I think that is really huge news, and it is developing because there are active and ongoing investigations at the state level and at the federal level. And I think that you can read between the lines on why that would be. Um, and, it is exposing things. And these are the people, you have to remember this, these are people that are connected to the group, the criminal group, that are the rogue and breakaway group of the original response team in Richard's case. And yeah, in Richard's case. And I think once you understand that, and I think this whole thing with Trump helps you understand this, right? Because the very people that are supposed to be securing him let him down, exposed him, and almost had him killed. And almost had him killed. Absolutely injured him. So thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.